Where are you? Lena and Lucy. It's closed. That's good.
Okay, so welcome everyone to this very special day for us. This is Lucy and I'm Lena, and we're super excited that we can now finally present our master thesis, Water, Water Everywhere, where we investigated how different stakeholders, which are people or parties with a certain interest, perceive and approach the water shortage here on Gotland. This is the agenda for today, and I will start now with water as a resource. Because water is the source of life, which makes it one of the most precious resources on our planet. But due to a combination of different factors, it comes more and more to water-scarce situations all over the planet. And therefore, water was already labeled as one of the defining crises of the 21st century. Of course, water scarcity differs all over the globe. But nowadays, also assumed water-rich areas, such as Northern Europe, have to deal with water-stressed situations. And one of these areas is this little dot, which is the island of Gotland we are on here right now.
Yeah, and since we investigated the water shortage on Gotland, I will now shortly present how it actually came to the water shortage and what currently contributes to it. So, historically seen, Gotland was actually characterized by an abundance of water. In fact, it was too wet, so in order to make it suitable for agricultural use, drainage took place, leading to runoffs of fresh water from the island into the Baltic Sea until now. And in addition to that, also the geological and hydrological conditions as an already low groundwater level and the rocky nature contribute to the water situation. Furthermore, since the 19th century, Gotland has faced the establishment of several producing industries, including water-intense industries. And the economic important pillar for the island, the tourism industry, is of course also contributing to the water-strained situation. Last but not least, all people living on the island further contribute with their daily household needs to a water-strained situation. But to sum up, the overall water supply can be labeled as satisfactory. However, the water consumption is not evenly distributed over the year, with reaching its peak over the driest months of the year, with the most people on the island, which leads to the prediction that over the next few years, the water shortage will actually worsen.
Okay, I will now shortly present our research process. The data was mainly collected with 12 qualitative, in-depth interviews that we held with several stakeholders to answer the following questions. First, we investigated how the stakeholders perceive and understand the situation here. Then we wanted to know how they, or what their strategies are to manage and address it. And last but not least, we connected it to wicked problems and institutional voids, which are two of the theories we used. Overall, the thesis had 4 theoretical pillars. Obviously, literature about water scarcity and shortage. Then we included the theory of wicked problems. And wicked problems can be described as problems who are extremely complex, manifold, and multi-layered, and this makes it impossible to solve them. It's only possible to manage them in order to not worsen an already problematic situation. Then we included the theory of institutional voids, and this happens when there are pressing problems but a lack of political norms, values, and a political infrastructure. And last but not least, we included the multi-stakeholder perspective, since all theories have multiple stakeholders and their actions as a core element.
So, and during our interviews, it became clear that the 12 stakeholders we interviewed from the 4 different sectors, political sector, industry, research and activist sector, already perceive and address the water shortage, yet their approaches differ quite a lot. So, for example, the political sector is focusing more on technical solutions, as, for example, desalination plants and information campaigns for saving water. Yet we were surprised to hear that even though they see themselves as having the key role, they were referring always to the politicians in order to solve the problem. From the industry, we were able to interview the site manager of Arla, which is the biggest dairy company on the island, as well as the environmental engineer from Cementa. And those two companies are two of the big five, the most water-intense companies on the island. And their approaches include process optimization, which is the reduction and the recycling of water. Yet they mostly refer to it in regard to corporate social responsibility. And now, in order to shed light from an academic perspective on the water shortage, we interviewed two researchers and lecturers from Uppsala University, which showed an, in general, deep understanding of the complex and messy situation. Yet they referred more to sustainability challenges in general that need a change in the mindset of the people and in the lifestyle. So, and last, we also wanted to include the activist perspective. Therefore, we interviewed three activists that are mostly engaged in spreading the knowledge about the water situation or educating themselves in water study cycles and restoring wetlands for securing their own personal water need. So, to conclude, we found that they perceive the problem, but not as a wicked one, that they see that they all refer to the politicians and the political sector as having the key role, yet also they pointed out that everyone using water is individually responsible, and that more needs to be done. And in order to do more, they all opted for stakeholder communication and cooperation, since they want a sustainable solution and not just short-term solutions. And now, coming to the conclusion of our findings, it turned out that the water shortage on Gotland can be labeled as a wicked problem, since it was described as messy and complex and manifold, yet it was not recognized as a wicked problem by the stakeholders, which leads to the perception that it can be solved, where we think it cannot be solved.
Besides, it was shown that a comprehensive understanding is absolutely necessary in order to address it effectively, because it was also shown that strategies who exist right now do not really tackle the problem as it's all.
Yeah, and furthermore, as already mentioned, the political, it was always referred to the political institutions as having the responsibility to solve it. Therefore, institutional voids, a lack of a clear, responsible figure became apparent.
And fourth, to address the wicked problem, stakeholder communication and cooperation can help.
And to conclude our master thesis, we want to quote one of our interviewees who said, "The problem is the plan," which means that for such unprecedented cases of wicked problems, such as the water shortage on Gotland, no ready-made solutions can be found, and it's rather to be approached with an open mind and flexible strategy.
In a broader context, we realized during the research that especially the matter of wicked problems is more relevant and present than ever. Because all sustainability challenges we have to deal with right now are wicked, and it doesn't matter if it's the water shortage on Gotland, poverty, hunger, or gender inequality. And therefore, we have to deal with these problems now in order to secure a safe planet, a safe future on this planet. And even if it's difficult and wicked, we think to deal with these problems is absolutely worth it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So please write down or remember your questions that you would like to ask these ladies afterwards, because we will move on to the next presentation to ask you to come up again. So Tanja and Karin, welcome. Oh.
We're passing this one. Otherwise, we're...
Hello, my name is Karen, and this is Tanya. And we have also done the research about Gotland, because why not when we are here? And during this year, we have talked a lot about the problems with the food sector and how producing food affects the environment and what sustainability implication it has. So we wanted to look at how this is actually implemented. So we know food sector is a problem. So what can we do in order to improve the situation? So we took Gotland as an example, and we found that they have there are goals for Gotland to become a role model, being a sustainable region, and then they want to develop the food sector. Yes. So we found some regional plans about this and wanted to see how this is implemented, and then look at the actors in the sector, if they understand the plans and what they are doing, and if they have the same idea of what sustainability is. So we decided to look into 3 goals that are presented here. And the first one regards the companies to become more professional. You need to have a company that understands the market and how things are changing, and in the same time acknowledge the 3 goals, the 3 parts of sustainability, which is social aspect, economic aspects, and environmental aspects. The second one regards collaboration and cooperation in the sector, where all the actors understand each other and work towards a common goal. And the third goal is regarding the Gotland brand. For example, they have now started selling milk in Stockholm that is branded Gotland milk, because they think there is a value in the products from Gotland. So they want to develop this for opportunities both nationally and internationally. Moving on to the stakeholders. So we have interviewed people from the sector. First of all, the regional authorities. Second, organizations such as the Farm Union, Agriculture Society, and an organization called Gotland Green Center. And lastly, the producers and processing companies that actually work with this. So now I want to show you a little bit about their views and interesting quotes that they brought to us regarding sustainability.
So how all different actors understand sustainability? After meeting different people, from farmers to the regional authorities and people working in organizations in Stockholm to do research on agriculture, we have understood that, for example, the research institute in Sweden, as you probably expect, puts a high value on knowledge, and that we need to educate everyone in the chain better in order to achieve sustainability. LRF is the farmers' union here in Gotland and in the whole Sweden. They question themselves, how do we achieve sustainability? And in their knowledge, in their understanding, and what they have heard from farmers, achieving sustainability could be using a new technology. Hushållningssällskapet, or the Agricultural Society says the consumer demands are changing all the time. So how do we address the problem of sustainability if consumers today want organic and tomorrow they just buy conventional because it's cheaper? Sweden have come further a lot. They are very good. We have, after doing our literature reviews and studies, we've understood that Sweden has done a lot in terms of sustainability. And what LRF says is our tough regulations sometimes pose a barrier on both export and import in the country. So that was one of the views that we have really put on a lot of attention on in the paper. And of course, the primary producers need to acknowledge their natural resources, either water, animals, land. And according to the farmer that we have interviewed, happy cows live longer and give more milk. We have come up to the conclusion that all the actors think the same, understand sustainability the same way. But there is a miscommunication in the chain. Therefore, we have suggested we have had 3 recommendations for the industry, and the different issues that oppose in business environments, such as bureaucracy, organizational structures, can cause a lot of miscommunication, therefore blame of the actors to one another. We advise them to use institutions like Gotland Green Center, RISE, Agriculture Society and Farmers Union to connect their views better and to impose their problems so they could be solved on a higher level.
Yes, so it is really interesting that they all they want to work with sustainability, but in the interviews we find that they keep on blaming each other, and they don't know that the other ones also want to work with sustainability, and that they actually have sort of similar views. One thing, for example, was the discussion between organic and conventional, which is a very common discussion, and there are pros and cons with both of them, which they all understand. But the primary producers, they think that the authorities only want to focus on organic. And when we talk to the authorities, they want to focus on both. And that, in the same way, the authorities, they put in the plans that companies need to be more professional and understand the market. Primary producers need to be more driving for growth. Primary producers, on the other hand, they say that the authorities don't understand how the market works. So there is a lack of trust between them. They don't trust each other in taking the right kind of action. So we suggest they work on trust, and especially between authorities and primary producers. They want to create meeting arenas, and we suggest work on the trust between the primary producers and the authorities, and point out where they actually have similar views, that they have common direction. The third one goes for the Gotland brand, which is really good, and we have high hopes for it. But the problem with that is that they rely on the consumer demand too much, and with this plan, they can actually not affect the consumers because they're not part of the plan. They can't decide what we are buying. So we suggest that they work on alternative strategies as well, and not only relying on people to pay more for Gotlandic products. That's the last recommendation we had.
And we have decided to conclude with a quote from Region Gotland. We don't know what the end game is for sustainability today, but we know that we need to start. It needs to be done in a well-balanced and mannered and pedagogical way. So, thank you.
And we're moving on to some research about India, I think. From this small island to a big city. Yes.
Should we press here? You start, right? Yes. Do I have to press or just? Hi everyone, we are very, very excited to finally present to you our thesis. I'm Mignon, this is Marissa. And the pictures we have used in our presentation are actually taken in the slums in India. So we're also excited to show you that.
Oh.
Not this one.
Wrong question. Tanya?
Where's the...
Yeah. Okay, so we're just going to click here. Yes, so our research question was, or we investigated how local NGOs in Pune perceive participatory budgeting in the light of inclusion and participation. So how did we get to this research question? If you look at what participatory budgeting is, it doesn't really have a proper official definition, but it is mostly characterized as a decision-making process where through participation and inclusion, decisions on the redistribution of resources is made in order to serve the vulnerable members of society. So participation and inclusion is at the core of the concept, which is why we decided to focus on it. We ended up in India because serving the vulnerable people by redistributing seemed very promising in a country where there is a very high welfare gap and high inequality. So we focused on India and then on Pune because even though a lot of cities have experimented with participatory budgeting, Pune is actually right now the only city with an ongoing process. So Pune has about 3 million inhabitants. However, it has more than 560 slums and an illiteracy rate of more than 10%. The budget that is assigned for participatory budgeting is only about 1.4% of the total city's budget. And in the budget for 2015 and 2016, the city only managed to get 6,000 suggestions. To indicate what the funds are usually used for, On an average, the biggest share, about 44%, is used to build or improve roads. So we started our research, and we found, because there is no definition, we only found a set of criteria which have to be fulfilled in order to qualify as participatory budgeting. So we decided to evaluate if the mechanism in Pune can actually qualify. So we came to the conclusion that 2 of the 5 criteria are not fulfilled. It is about a financial process. It involves a city, and it is repeated over years. However, it does not include deliberation, and also there is no accountability. But Min-Young will talk about this a little more in detail later. So actually, Pune does not have participatory budgeting, even though in the picture you can see they've just won an award for their groundbreaking efforts in participatory budgeting. Yes. So this shows the need for a definition which only allows mechanisms that qualify in all characteristics to actually claim they have participatory budgeting, because the public perception is misled if a city like Pune, who doesn't qualify, is awarded for participatory budgeting. So, now Min-Young.
So in order to review this award-winning, wonderful mechanism they have implemented, we used the core intentions of inclusion and participation, and then we reviewed the case of Pune. So firstly, we found that in terms of inclusion, there are certain barriers that prohibit the citizens who need this mechanism the most to be included. The first one of which was poverty. So to illustrate this, we found this quote: "When poverty hits you hard, you don't think about participating. All you care about is meeting your ends needs." The second barrier we found was that gender roles has quite a restricting influence on women's mentality. We interviewed a lady and asked her, "Do you know about this form? This is a PB form." Then she said, "You should go and talk to my husband." They said, "No, we can talk to you. You are also a citizen." But she said, "No, I am not a citizen. My husband is a citizen." We found that land ownership is a very important notion in this regard as well. If you don't own land, if you don't own some money, there is a possibility that you don't feel empowered enough to even call yourself a citizen. We saw that this lacked sense of entitlement and people feeling that they don't have a job, therefore they make no tax contributions and they have no right to expect certain things from government. Next, we saw that even if we overcome these self-perceived barriers, the process itself is exclusionary as well. The first element that creates this is illiteracy. And because of this, people are giving unclear suggestions which get rejected. Some forms really didn't make sense because when you read it, you really don't understand what this person wants. Probably they were not literate, so they couldn't write it well. We saw that in terms of daily wages, the citizens can't afford to stand in line for a day during office hours because they themselves need to earn their money. And finally, we saw that lacked initiative from the government side prohibits people from understanding the scope and the intention of this mechanism, and therefore these 2 barriers are not overcome. What this leads to is that the over-representation of the already well-served creates a notion that the misappropriation of resources happens, so the well-served are served again. We found that the government is at the bottom of this, and if they wanted to, they could address both these hurdles that are self-perceived and imposed by the process, but they don't want to save the day. Because we don't want the accepted citizens' budget, because from an elected representative point of view, this is the death of democracy. And we have found that the governmental resistance allows both barriers, and therefore this process is implemented inappropriately. And we ask why the government keeps implementing PB. Why is it still there if it does not support it? And we found that it feels good because you can go to some other city and say that Pune is the only city that has PB.
Yes, so to conclude, our main findings were that participatory budgeting in Pune does actually not qualify as participatory budgeting, and because of a lack definition, plus then the process is exclusive and obstructed by a lot of barriers, And the most influential party on that is the government, which is the greatest obstacle and implementer. So this is kind of a negative ending. However, we think it's a really great tool, and we really think it's worth the fight. So we hope that some of the recommendations we made, we also came up with our own definition. So if you're interested in that, you're welcome to read the thesis. We made a lot of recommendations for the city, and we hope it'll help a bit.
Yeah. Yes. Thanks.
I think the local radio wanted to talk to them. Oh gosh, so that's why they're. I forgot about this. You forgot about this. Thank you, all of you. The local radio wanted to talk to them, so that's why they are not here. But maybe they're coming. Come closer. It's recorded, so we can put this online, so we can watch them again and again.
Please ask easy questions.
That's what I have to say there. Any questions, comments?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Do I need the microphone for the recording?
It is for the recording, yes. We're talking to the world.
Okay, thank you. Mignon and Marisa, how come that you choose Punas as a case study? Had you been there before, or how did you step over it?
As she mentioned, it's the only city in India that currently has a PV process. And since its core intention is the reappropriation of resources, it's the third most unequally distributed country in the world in terms of wealth.
Okay, but have you ever been there yourself before, or did you?
No, we have wonderful interviewees.
Great. And another question: participate in budgeting. There's budgeting going on all over the world, especially in municipalities and cities and so on. But I don't think it's very common here either. Or what is your experience about that?
About participatory budgeting or budgeting in general?
Participatory budgeting. For example, I don't believe really that here in Gotland that is something that are ongoing. We read about the municipality budgets each year, and most often that it isn't enough money in and so on. But the concept of participatory budgeting isn't something that I have heard about here. But what are your experience when you have read about it now? They are in India, seem to be in the front of it, but how does it look in our part of the world?
So participatory budgeting is originally from Brazil. So you have really a lot of participatory budgeting in whole Latin America, mainly in Brazil. So there is kind of where it started and spread over the world. But as we were reading, there's a lot of comparing between developing and developed countries, because also, of course, Germany, my city at home, has participatory budgeting. I didn't know until I started this master thesis. So it's not really put out there, but a lot of cities are starting it. But it's, of course, very different in developed and developing countries.
Anyone else?
Hi. Well, thank you for a very interesting presentation. You mentioned the other examples of participatory budgeting from Brazil, from Porto Alegre, and there are some other high-profile examples in the world. Did you have any chance to compare the outcomes of those experiments with the situation in Pune, which seems to be more of a image or issue, so to speak? Has the same thing happened in the other cases?
Since it's the only one in India, we focus more on looking at how the core intentions are playing out. There was no other city in the same demographic context that we compared it to within the study, but I think that it would be a very valuable recommendation for future studies to maybe compare what we have found to similar contexts.
I want to ask, Tanya and Karin, you talked about the lack of collaboration being the main barrier and this trust issue between stakeholders. Why do you think that is? Did you get any sense of why is this distrust and why is this lack of initiative with collaboration when it comes to sustainability, working with sustainability?
I think part of it is a lack of communication. They work very separately. They have these organizations in between that are meant to sort of mediate between them, but I don't think that has come far enough yet. And also they're focused on their own daily business, I guess. And also lack of definitions. Sustainability is still very broad, and you just the authorities know about this as well. That's actually very important to say. But you just say we're sustainable, but they haven't cleared out what it means for Gotland and what it means for this region and for the production here. So I think they need more clear definitions together.
Just to add something on this, we have concentrated only on 3 goals. The plans and strategies released for Gotland have number of goals. So we also, what we looked at in our recommendation was to concentrate on well-defined goals with urgency, because they need to know what is the most urgent things to be actioned in order to achieve that sustainability.
And I also think it's really interesting because when you talk to farmers, to primary producers, they work with their land and their animals every day, and it's kind of weird then to come to them and say you're not sustainable, because they work with nature. So for them, it's a little bit in the industry as well. I think hard for them to understand each other, so they need to. It's a very difficult situation, but I think with communication it can be better
between the top and the bottom.
I have a question.
Yes.
She's going to be
You have studied Gotland, which is in Sweden. Do you have any opinion regarding other countries, if this is the same, or haven't you had any chance to look into that?
As Tanya mentioned, Sweden has come very far, we reckon, because during this year we've talked a lot about how the food industry affects environment and sustainability, and in other countries it's much larger scales. Gotland is very small, and it feels like we have better opportunities here. I think it's better here actually, but they probably have the same. The facts, like telling a farmer that they're not sustainable, I think that will be anywhere in the world really.
The regional development in Sweden is on a much higher level than any other country, even in Europe. So they think about for future. So the goals we've presented for 2025, which is quite soon coming, and that was the other reason we implied urgency in our paper.
Hi, to the team on water, as a wicked problem. I was wondering, you talked about usually they blame the politicians or there's an institutional void. Did you find any role for communities or any other stakeholders in terms of your research?
Do you mean the involvement of the others?
In terms of finding sustainable solutions for water scarcity.
Yeah, when we interviewed our activists, it became quite apparent and clear that their role is contributing to the improvement of the situation. So, for example, when we interviewed Daniel, one of our activists, he was really engaged in protesting in the north on the island several years ago and writing about the topic, so spreading knowledge. Since from his point of view, it's not always correctly presented. And then it resulted in the fact that this project they intended to do in the north was cancelled. And also our other activist who was active or is active in the east on the island for restoring wetlands. She is also an example for that individual activism changes something positively.
Thank you all. Thanks to you, ladies, all of you. Take the possibility to talk to the other students as well. The next break is about again at 2 o'clock.
They were like,
It's not the time for me.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, but yeah.
Welcome back to another session with 3 more interesting presentations. This time we'll change focus a little bit and move into the world of the corporate world, you could say. Small businesses, but also bigger businesses. And we start with these 2 talking about social innovation and how that could move and fly from one place to another.
Welcome back after the break. My name is Andrea, this is Luisa, and past 3 months we've been working on and investigating the fusion of social innovations, and we based our research on the case study of suspended coffees in Germany. You might be wondering what social innovation is. Well, social innovation is a novel solution that aims at tackling social problems and meet the needs of local communities. As quote of Lisbeth Shore say, we have learned to create the small exceptions that can change the lives of hundreds. But we have not learned how to make the exceptions the rule to change the lives of millions. It's important if we have this social innovation that we do not reach only our local community, but that we spread it further, and thus we can spread the help all over us. That's why we looked at the diffusion, meaning spreading the social innovation to more locations. When we were deciding about the topic and what we're going to write about, Luisa comes to me and she says, "Did you hear about this concept of suspended coffees?" And then she starts explaining that it's a concept that can be adopted by any cafe in the world, and if they become partners of suspended coffee, then any customer can walk into the cafe, buy 2 coffees, one for your own consumption, but the second one is for a person in need. And this coffee waits until a person in need comes and pick it up and can enjoy it for free. You might think that, what is it? It's just a cup of coffee. If there is a homeless person, he needs much more than just coffee. However, it has been seen as something, as like a welcoming these people back to our communities and giving them opportunity to, again, be part of the social life.
Yeah, we thought it's a very inspiring idea, and therefore we really wanted to study it and take it to an academic level, to an academic perspective. And we found that suspended coffee is actually also a really good case, since it spreads all over the world to more than 2,000 businesses and in 34 countries. We've actually even found it on Gotland in the Red Cross. However, since we wanted to study how it spreads from one place to another and see all the connections between the actors, we decided to focus on Germany, since it has the most adapting businesses within Europe. And we managed to conduct 24 interviews with businesses and 2 with the coordination body who managed the website and gets in contact with all the different businesses. And then we tried to take the academic literature. However, there was a lack on literature of diffusion of social innovation. Therefore, we used the model of only the diffusion of innovation and added findings from different articles about social innovations in particular, and ended up in an own model, which consists of 4 main elements that affect the diffusion, namely the ecosystem, the place where all the actors interact, and the design of the social innovation, the channels, for example, the mass media, or is it more personal contact, and the adapters, which might be atypical.
Our research led us to 3 main findings, and we call them the drivers of the diffusion of social innovations. And the first one is social need. So not only social innovations try to meet the needs of local society, just the existence of the need itself is a driver.
And suspended coffee was successful because it doesn't define person in need. Person in need could be anyone. It could be a homeless person, a refugee. It could be a broke student or a single mom or someone that just had a bad day. So that's why it's beautiful that this can be really used everywhere around the world. The second one is the motivation. And now we talked about the strong personal motivation of adapters. Compared to the conventional innovation, when it's really more about maximizing the profit, we found out that these adapters are driven by the wish to really help and contribute to the society around them. They were often involved in other social projects before or come from the social organization themselves. And one lady even said that she herself asked 40 to 50 other cafes to adopt this concept just in her free time. So that was really nice. And then the third one is compatibility of the innovation with the social ecosystem and the business model. And suspended coffee happens to be really flexible, and it offers a lot of variabilities of this social innovation. We found out it's not only cafes that implemented it, but also restaurants or hotels. They don't only offer coffee, but you can buy suspended drink or suspended meal. We even found one massage place. You can get a suspended massage, so someone pays a massage for you. Or there was even a kiosk, so a homeless person can come and pick up a newspaper or some other daily, maybe hygienic products that they need more than coffee.
Yeah, so all in all, we found out it is about more than just coffee, and we really hope that you are aware of all those nice little projects going on around all of us. And also that if you work somewhere yourself, you might even be able to implement such an easy social innovation in your working place. And therefore, we really want to encourage you to get involved. Vielen Dank fürs Zuhören.
Thank you.
Ready? Yeah. All right. So hello, everyone. This is my dear friend Sean. My name is Severin. And Sean, do you remember the first time we met to discuss our thesis and we didn't really know what to do?
Are you talking about that night when we drank that bottle of wine and then we came up with this piece of paper?
Yeah, this one.
No, true, I remember. And we said we wanted to save the world.
Yeah, we did. Turns out it's not that easy, is it?
No, it's actually not. It's quite difficult.
We had to scale it down a little.
A little bit. So we decided we had to focus on small and medium-sized enterprises.
SMEs, right?
Correct.
SMEs. Well, actually, SMEs are not that small at all, because they constitute for 99.8% of all enterprises in the European Union.
And this is actually quite huge if you think about it. And moreover, they constitute for 64% of industrial pollution in Europe, which makes them quite important to focus on. And that's why we decided, and after a lot of research, very, very muchly research, we decided that we would take SMEs and focus on them, because in literature it has been identified that SMEs want to act sustainable, but they perceive certain barriers that are hindering them from acting more sustainable.
Exactly, like their perception of these certain barriers. They say, well, we don't really have the money, we don't have the time, we don't have the people to act sustainable or to become more environmentally friendly. Sometimes they just don't know what to do, and sometimes they're really not aware what to do.
But Simon, I don't believe that this is actually the case, because we found some companies that can actually act in an environmentally friendly manner. What are they called again?
Green businesses.
Yeah, businesses with green aspirations. So these businesses are run by ecopreneurs, and ecopreneurs are people that are crazy enough to, next to their financial goals, follow environmental goals.
Yeah, and I think if you want to do something really nice and do it right, you want to follow the champion. In our case, the green champion, the ecopreneurs. So that's why we looked into them. And that's what our study aimed at, to find out about the perception of barriers ecopreneurs and their employees have and had during the transition to an environmental sustainable business and how they manage these. It's quite long. Right. And we had quite a lot of interesting companies. Two of them on Gotland.
Yeah, two of the companies is from Gotland, and then one company is from Germany. These companies are Thales & Clemens, Bioplast, and Imse Wimse. To start off with, Thales & Clemens is an eco-hotel, the first in Gotland, and they very interesting. They're certified by Swan & Label, and also they installed a geothermal unit that helps them save electricity.
The second one was Bioplast in Germany, an industrial company producing plastic parts for the automotive industry in Germany mostly. And they're interesting because they're completely carbon neutral. They, for example, have their own wind turbine, and they're actually offering plastic parts not made from oil but from plant-based materials.
And last but not least, Imse Wimse, who produces textile products for children and women. Mostly they produce organic cotton, diapers for children, and then interesting, what made them so much more interesting is the fact that they realized that becoming sustainable is not a process where you achieve it and then stop. It's an ongoing process. And therefore, they also are busy implementing a project at the moment to make them more environmentally friendly. So we decided we have to have interviews with people in these companies, the managers and mostly the employees, to get a more in-depth understanding of how do they perceive these barriers that keep normal SMEs from achieving this environmental sustainability. And we found some interesting results.
We did. Indeed, my dear friend Sean, we had interesting results. For me, most important or most interesting is that these barriers the literature offered us weren't really the barriers the ecopreneurs perceived. It was more like external barriers. It was not about the money so much. It was about the partners in their business or the customers. So we found that the motivation of these ecopreneurs goes beyond the motivation the partners, suppliers, or the customers have. So this motivation or these partners limit the scope in which these environmental actions can take place. Just to bring an example, we have St. Clemens Hotel here on the island, and they have a very comprehensive environmental approach. However, we know it's a very connected economy we're living in. Every action depends on suppliers and partners. So when they wanted to have their bed sheets and their towels washed environmentally friendly, they had a problem because there's not such a company here on the island, and none of the companies was able or was willing to cooperate with them. So due to the partners, they were or the partners had an influence on their environmental actions, which was a negative impact.
Next, we found resource barriers, which was identified in literature as quite strong, but not quite as strong perceived by our entrepreneurs that we interviewed. So these resource barriers are money, time, knowledge, and human resources. So when you talk about money, most people feel that when acting more sustainable in an environmental manner, that you pay a lot of money, but you don't really get it back and you don't save any money. But as Thales & Clemens can tell you that they implemented a geothermal unit, which they would get their return on investment in 6 years, which is quite fast. And they're saving 45% of their energy usage, which is saving them a lot of money. Then the next barrier was knowledge. It's a very strong barrier in literature, and it was as an important factor seen by all of the ecopreneurs, but no one ever perceived it as a barrier and actually saw it as overcame it quite easily. One of the examples is Bioplast, where they have a lot of money and they consisted of the necessary resources. They could get consultants and support to identify, okay, how can we act more environmentally friendly and what process should we follow to act more environmentally friendly? But moreover, the interesting fact about the resource barriers is, although they are not seen as that strong, they can have quite an impact and they are in correspondence with other barriers as well. Next, a very interesting thing that we found is the internal motivations of these ecopreneurs. So these ecopreneurs has an internal motivation that you don't see in normal SMEs. And this constitutes for them not seeing these barriers as actual barriers, but actually just as a process where you go through.
Yeah, so that brought us to question the term barrier offered by literature. Because as we found it, these ecopreneurs don't see it as this insurmountable hurdle to jump over. They see it as an issue they have to solve step by step.
And that brings us to our final, that looking at these three companies, we realized that by having honest convictions and a true manner in acting in an environmentally friendly way, these barriers can be step by step overcome, and we can come to a future that is better for generations. still to come. And then I bring it back to a Nobel Prize winner Saul Barlow, who said, "Whoever wants to reach a distant goal must take small steps." Thank you for listening.
Well, first and foremost, I have to say I don't appreciate how you raised the bar a little too high now. Not very good. But yes, what we did to juxtapose it against what the guys here did previously, we went on for the powerful companies. We went for the big guys, those with the big economic muscle and the environmental impact that they have. My name is Bledar. This is Lotte, and our thesis is entitled Circular Economy in the Nordic Region, on the right path. And it's a study about the effects of circular economy business practices on firms' environmental performance. And to give you a little crash course in circular economy, we can first look into the economic model that has been prevailing for the past 150 years, approximately. And this is how it looks like. Companies have been using this for the last 150 years, and although we have squeezed as much efficiency from this model as we have done for the years, it's not enough, and it's still a lot of waste still in this linear model. And it starts with companies taking natural resources, extracting those, producing the products that we use, distributing to us consumers, and then in the end, and this is the most important part of this model, we just dispose it. It's not a product that we take back and use it again. It's something that just disappears, either through incineration or through disposal. So we regard waste as disposal only. And this is not what we want. We want to change that. And this is the alternative model to the linear, which we find very much better. Right, Sarah? Good. And this is where we don't see waste as disposal anymore. This is where we see waste as a resource. Now we're circulating all the materials that we have and the products that we have in order to keep them in use for as much as possible. To take a very short example is the conventional iPhone that most of us, I suppose, use. And that's very interesting with that product is that it has 65 of its 80 constituents are non-radioactive, but we're using so many different complex parts in this product which just disappear when we end their useful life and we don't use it anymore. So in order to go here, then we have to rethink that process and how to keep these natural resources and metals in loops. And that's what we do in the circular economy. We take them in loops and don't let them go out and disappear. And this is a model that is prevailing now a little bit in the different parts of the world. In the Netherlands, where my partner comes from, we have Philips, the company that uses their medical equipment in order to extend their useful life, to refurbish it and sell it again. In France, we have the Renault, the automobile manufacturer, which uses its engines and remanufactures them. And all of these companies have seen a profitability with this kind of model. And now what we wanted to do was to look at the region where we are living right now and where we are right now. And that is the Nordic region. And these are the countries that we have looked at: Sweden, Denmark, Norway, Finland, and Iceland, and identified those big companies that have this environmental impact and this economic muscle necessary to make a change.
So the research question that we actually looked at was, in what way does the adoption of circular economy business practices actually affect the environmental performance of Nordic firms measured by energy consumption, water usage, and greenhouse gas emissions? Now, we've done this by quantitatively looking at 78 firms from various industries, but all in the Nordic region, and then look at their environmental performance in terms of energy, water, greenhouse gas emissions, but also try to determine their circular economy performance by looking at their annual reports and, all the information they put out about their operations. Please continue. Thank you. So this is kind of the model that we built with our different hypotheses. We found, the results told us that the hypothesis 3 and 2 were not supported. So we did not find a relationship between the circular economy business practices and water usage, but also not the greenhouse gas emissions. So there might be a relationship, but we have not found one. Then again, we did find a significant relationship with energy consumption. However, we hypothesized that if a firm was doing really well in terms of circular economy business practices, they would have a lower energy consumption. Now, we found that this was not the case. It was actually higher. So this means that when a firm is doing well in terms of circular economy, they use more energy. Strange, right? So this could have multiple explanations. For instance, it could be that it's due to renewable energy, that they use more renewable energy, which is a part of the circular economy concept. However, we cannot see the difference in their energy consumption. But firms could think, since it's renewable, it's good. So I don't feel guilty, so we use more. It doesn't really matter. Then again, it could also be that firms actually say that they're doing really well in terms of implementing all these circular changes, but in reality don't really do it and don't really engage in it that well. Another and final discussion point was also that the Nordic region really focuses on recycling. And this is only a very first step in the whole circular process, because there are many different things of applying circular economy. And this is actually the least value capturing one. So maybe if the firms do more in terms of refurbishment, remanufacturing, or reuse, the value the value they get from it might be much more clear, and it would perhaps have a different linear environmental outcome. So maybe our results would be completely different if they really focused on those things. So what we really were shown was that the whole circular concept is not as easy as we first thought. It's much more complex. There are many different factors that can influence it. So even though we really like the concept, it's not immediately as clear-cut, and you don't per se have these environmental outcomes in your firm. So a firm might think, yes, it's a good concept, and it might still be really applicable to that particular firm, but it would not mean that it clearly has a linear effect on their environmental performance. So they should be very careful with that.
And the main conclusion here is that we can see that the current circular performance of these companies that we've looked at is not enough to make the circular economy a clear-cut approach, as my partner just said. But we have to think that we are living in a region where recycling has been prevailing for so long, and it's something that is kind of engraved in the culture here in the Nordics. And what we can see is that recycling is prevailing, but we have to move towards more value-capturing operations in order to make this concept really happen and see its effects on environmental performance in order to be as sustainable as possible. And I wanted to end by looking at this quote for a moment. Lindsay Miles said this at her TED Talk in Perth, and it's very applicable to our situation. As we have seen in the Nordics, recycling is prevailing, and it's a great place to start, but it's a very bad place to stop. So we have to move towards more value-capturing operations in order to make this happen. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this very interesting findings. And stand up. So now it's time for questions. If you have any questions, please raise your hand and I will give you the microphone. I can always come from you.
Hi, my name is Bella, and I was a student that stood there last year, so I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for your presentations. I was just curious about your thesis. You talked about that you got indications on that you could not see a linear effect on the environmental performance. How big was the study? Like the measurements on the respondents.
We had used secondary data, so for all the 78 companies that we have all the data. But
Okay,
still,
yes.
so quantitatively is still a small sample, so that might have affected the overall results. But for all those 78, we got all the information, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah, but just to add on that, because circular economy is really a buzz in the business world around right now. We see that large industries try to implement and work really hard on this. IKEA, for example. When you talk about the circular economy, it might not be do you see that it will not be like a right way, or do you see that companies should target it in another way, or think about it in another way, and if so, what?
That is exactly what we wanted to do with the study, to see what the indicators are in which companies have to engage more. And this is why we use the benchmark to assess all these companies to see what they are doing in specific sections, as there are strategy, communication, and so on. So we wanted to see exactly what they're doing in order to have a quality answer to these kind of questions. And what we're seeing is that most of these companies are still stuck in a sphere where they think recycling is just the way to go, and that's not where they should stay. We are seeing that if you move gradually towards operations that are more profitable and also make more sense, and those are the companies that are prevailing right now. I mentioned Philips, I mentioned Renault, but there are many more companies that are doing this, but they are approaching this in a very different way. And they are approaching this also very holistically. A lot of stakeholders are involved, and it's not just the one way to go in this one. And they have just to open the horizons a little bit and think of other operations rather than recycling, because that's what the study has shown to not work. And that's not really the environmental performance we want to see.
Yeah, and if I can add, the thing is that what we really found was that it's not a one way of doing things. There are many different ways of applying circular economy. So it's very difficult to say, yes, it's perfect, it works. For some companies it may, and for some it doesn't. So you also have to find the perfect fit between a certain practice and the company itself. So it's not that, we believe that it can work, but it does not mean that it's guaranteed to work.
Thank you.
Okay, more questions?
Hi, one question to the ecopreneurs. What is your analysis of the gap that you find between what the literature talked about barriers and the ecopreneurs? Why do you think you saw this gap between the two?
I think it's really the motivational factor we were talking about, because where normal SME sees, okay, that costs money, that needs time to do, then they're stopping there. And these ecopreneurs just take this money, take this time, and go beyond, and then they meet new barriers, and that's where this difference is coming from, because they go beyond where others stop, and at some point they'll also have to meet some barriers, and I think that's this motivational factor in there.
Yeah, no, and to prove that, because they have this internal motivation, they also come to a place where they're like, okay, but these barriers, we have to stake it, we have to continue, we can't stop at some point. As with Imsa, where they thought, okay, they were the most sustainable in the industry at the moment, they realized, but actually we can do more. There is more that we can do, because it's an ever-changing world, and it's always revolutionizing.
And that's something worth mentioning, because none of these companies said, well, we're green, we're done, we're ready yet. They say, okay, we're all still in the process. They don't see themselves as ecopreneurs. They see, okay, they're doing something for the environment, but also they see themselves still in the process. So they're never stopping. And they also said, well, we will never be done. There's always more.
I have a question for your group about suspended coffees. In what way do you think that concept can be sustainable? And do you think there's going to be people take advantage of the process?
Well, as we often discussed, sustainability consists of three elements of the people, of the environment, and the economic success. So there could be at least the two parts that society profits by getting people in need, like by improving the situation, and also that the businesses might rise their profits because customers enjoy the concept. So at least those two parts of the sustainability are really affected by this concept, even though it's a small act, but both are affected, yeah.
Your second part of the question was?
Do you think there's going to be people who's going to take advantage of the process?
The beauty of the concept is that it's an act of kindness, and then it's not up to us to judge that who is in need. And so far we did not come across findings that it would be taken advantage of. We've had some cafes that weren't sure if they can give it to a student because they were like, okay, so they want free coffee and then they're going to spend their money on something else maybe. But yeah, the purpose is that it's not up to us to judge.
But it was really interesting to see that even though it's against the idea kind of, some cafes stopped telling the customers, please don't buy any suspended coffee anymore if there were too many already paid. So they really wanted to make the system working, that it's always equaled out, that they don't earn more money by just receiving all the money, but they always made it equal in the end. So there we could also see kind of the same motivations as in the case of the two of you.
I've actually got a question for all three groups. We see out of business point of view the sustainability, but did you find any findings on their personal lives in your interviews on the sustainability? Do they implement such stuff in their personal lives?
Should we start? Okay. In our study, we have not looked into the consumers themselves and how they are perceiving this. But for me that is interested in this question of circular economy and how it affects lives and companies, both of them, I can see that the public is embracing it slowly, and it's everywhere in the world where it is embracing it. Also in South Africa, we have the Recycling Economic and Development Initiative, which is collecting car tires in order to recycle these and make new ones. And companies are embracing this, but also consumers want this more. Also, companies are buying refurbished products, which are products that are just sent back, fixed into standardized products again, and sold for a second life and third. And people are embracing this slowly, because we do not really want products anymore, especially in this world where we are right now. We want to rather have the service of it. If I would see a car as a possible buy tomorrow, I would not think about the car itself, but about the service that it gives me. So that's how the consumers are beginning to think now. And that's why the circular economy is presenting something new and something exciting.
But since we did not do any interviews, we did not personally have any.
Yeah, I think for us it was interesting to see that we also focus only on the businesses, so we only interviewed those people. But it was quite clear that they are so interested in it that they were also already involved in different projects. Like all of them explained, and we brought cake for homeless people for Christmas, and we did this, and they were all involved in social projects, or some of them were even connected to non-profit organizations. So we could already see that, it is for them not only about the financial benefit, but they really wanted to have an impact on society.
And for us, we saw it because these ecopreneurs are these special people. They do actually, the way they live their lives, they also want to implement it at their home. So in St. Clements, the two owners felt that the way they live their lives they want to live it in the hotel. And with BioPlus, the CEO was actually convinced by his son to become a sustainable company. And from that point on, when his son told him, but Dad, you live 6 kilometers from home, but you drive with a 4x4 each day to work, just polluting the air. And his dad went immediately, thought about it, and from that point on changed his whole business concept. So it is a personal character, and they take that back to their homes as well. As we saw in St. Clements, the breakfast host lady, she was there from the start of the hotel. And when the new owners took over, she was a bit skeptic if is this going to work? And she was thinking, okay, if it doesn't work after here, she might not stay on, but she'll see how it works. And now she even started implementing some of the sustainability aspects they do at the business itself at home.
She tried to convince us during our interview we're not using cleaning chemicals in the hotel at all anymore. And she was skeptical at the moment, at the beginning. And then she tried it at home as well. And now she's just using vinegar and water for cleaning. And while we're having an interview, she said, you should try it as well. Like, it works.
Did you try it?
I'm not cleaning at home.
Okay. Are there any more questions? I actually have 2 questions, if it's okay.
About your research. You talked about the recycling, and that was the main kind of the step that they cover. But what about the other steps? And do you have any idea about what are the main barriers for them to not complete the whole cycle? And what is it? What is so difficult?
This is it's not a new concept, but in its form that it's talked about right now, it's fairly new concept. The profitability of it has been shown in some specific companies, but as my partner said before, there's no clear-cut approach for all of them. So you really have to think into how do I create dialogues with stakeholders in order to make this happen. So it's a little bit of a more complex situation, and that's why some of the companies are not seeing it as a possible just to-go solution right now. In Sweden, for example, we have seen H&M, we have seen IKEA, companies that are doing this, and they are seeing that it's profitable, but it's still, they have to see where they are and where they want to go and how to get there. And that takes time. It takes its time, and we know that it's not a solution for tomorrow, but gradually it will move towards something.
But is it because of time, or is it because of what kind of resources do they lack? Do you know that for taking it all away?
Resources that they lack, I wouldn't say there's really a resource lacking here. It's just the motivation of doing so.
And the complexity as well.
Complexity,
I mean,
yes.
Because many of the companies we looked at are large multinational firms. So implementing something like this across the whole firm is really complex, and everything is linked to each other. So that will take time, and as Mapar said, it's a trial and error kind of thing. So, and since we're in the beginning stages, and they've taken the first step with the recycling, but the others, that will take time and see if that works or not.
They're a little scared also how to challenge the conventional. Yeah. That's not what you do, kind of. If this has been prevailing for 150 years, why would you change it now completely? That's why it's a little bit of a scare. But some companies are doing what they're doing, and they are seeing some things. So gradually, I think it will move towards it.
Oh, there's a question.
Is for your group. Do you feel like the circle is kind of closed, and do you feel like there should be like another arrow to a different way to recycle? I think I saw one on one company on Shark Tank, and basically that company is selling the billboard where they use it for advertising for a company who can use that material to make backpacks and all of that good stuff. Do you feel like that can be another way for companies to do so? Because sometimes their material can be not suitable for their own purpose, but they can sell those materials to different companies.
It's great that you say that, because that's one of the main components of the circular economy. That's industrial symbiosis, and that's where a man's trash is another man's fortune kind of situation. So that's happening also in different parts of the world. Not really right now here. Exactly.
Yeah, it's normally there's also you have the circle, that's the basic idea, but it doesn't have to be within the same firm. So you can have one that goes to a different firm, but still that it's used and not just thrown away. But that's a good one to bring up.
Okay, I just have one last question here to you about the St. Clemens Hotel. You talked about the external negative barriers that they face when they are trying to hire their standards to decide who they will do business with, right, to their suppliers. Did they talk about that they have to kind of lower their standards to be able to just operate? Or how do they manage with their strategy in relation to their suppliers and who they do business with?
Well, they're building slowly up their standards. So they try to reach a point, but they are held down a little. So they never started there and were pushed down by the suppliers.
Yeah.
But not just the suppliers, as I also said, it's the consumers that like to have, for example, a completely regional and vegetarian breakfast, which would be sustainable in certain definitions because it's regional. But then they couldn't offer cucumber and tomatoes in the winter, which their customers wouldn't accept. So they are held back to more sustainability in these terms by their own customers. So yeah, they're kind of hindered by this factor.
Are there more questions? No? Okay, then we can take a coffee break and we will be here again at 3. I just wanted to tell you that the coffee is on one place here at the right and the tea is on at the left. So.
You're amazing. Every day you juggle a million things and
this is the...
It's on.
It's on now.
Okay.
Really?
So you have to speak loud and clear.
I have a big voice.
Great.
Good.
So stay and make a bet.
Let's wait. Let's wait, everybody, and then we start.
Shift to this place so that you can use this.
Yeah.
Because yours is a little bit longer.
Thank you.
3 minutes, 3 minutes.
Yes, but I also mean 3 minutes to 3.
Yeah, we'll make it shorter.
No, just no. I mean, we don't need to start at 3. Oh, yeah. So, no stress.
No, I'm not stressed.
When he is expected to be stressed.
When he starts to talk, it's like different person.
And then you can't stop.
That is,
Without the cable.
No, that is why I told her to give me a cue.
Yes. So what kind of cue do you have?
Summer.
Summer means stop. Like,
Almost move to the next. So, too much talking. Ready?
Yeah.
So let's do it.
Yeah, I'm glad that we're almost there.
Almost.
there's one thing that we all have in common, and that is that we all are consumers. So, having talked about what others do over there, big corporations, governments and so on, it's time to take it back to ourselves. We have actually 5 different studies that focus on consumer behavior in various ways and in different places. So, here we go, fast out. Let's get started.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back. I will take you guys to China now. Our topic is about digital service in sharing economy and sustainability, and we proceed our study by a sharing car company, Didi Chuxing. So I will generally talk about the introduction and the research process, and then Wuzi will share our main findings with a short conclusion. So first, like everybody living in big cities, they have one common concern facing every morning, which is traffic congestion. In other words, this is so common in China. In other words, is the difficulty of commuting. So that's the inspiration for our study. As Didi Chuxing is a car sharing app, also a company, so their business concept directly pinpoints this social concern, which means that they provide what consumers and needs and wants for every day for their traveling, transportation traveling. So, and also Didi Chuxing has a business goal that they want to create a more mobile and sustainable city ecosystem. So that's why we want to focus on this case, that how Didi Chuxing will implement our consumers' sustainability attitude by their interaction with their car sharing service. So here is our research question, and we target our research location in Suzhou, China. We target the millennials as our target group because they have like a stronger understanding and perceptions of sustainability compared to other generations, and they're also more willing to participate in sharing economy in China based on the data analysis. And as a qualitative research, we use the semi-structured interviews, and finally we collect 10 interviews from different consumers. And in order to ensure our study's credibility and reliability, we use the data triangulation techniques, which is online survey, and we conducted on a social media platform, which is like the top WeChat in China right now. And the whole data collection process took around 2 weeks in China. So here is our results for the interview coding, and Uzi will talk about more about our findings.
Yeah. As you can see from these excerpts, you see that these are relative to, and personal. And if you see from the first one, it is about convenience. Consumers, they want convenience. And Didi Shusong actually give them that convenience. So if you can see or interpret it yourself, you can see that it is related to convenience. Why the second one is, it's about synergy, working together, companies working together. Like if you know about Didi, Apple and Tencent, they've invested in Didi. Apple invested $1 billion to make Didi a partner. And that is a very strong suggestion to the public that sharing economy is getting more powerful. Yeah. You see, this is like when you say action, how do you give action to people, or how do you sort of empower people? It's okay.
Sorry.
It's okay. Utilitarianism is about action, giving things to people that can benefit in the general form, not just giving to one person. And that is the significance of the company Didi Shusong. Yeah, consumer needs, they are connected to consumer attitude. When we talk about attitude has 3 different categories that can be splitted: action, cognition, and behavior. And when that is joined together, you get the attitude of individuals. Yeah, you can see from here that Didi's action is inspiring a lot of consumers in China. Not only in China, because recently, for about 3 days ago, you see that there's going to be an extension into Denmark. And that is the significance of sharing economy. Sharing economy itself did not just start in China or America, like Uber. Sharing economy started from Switzerland and Germany. That is where they call the meat fair. But they didn't use it or bring it into the private concept of trying to make money out of it. So in Germany, the meat fair is just like standard. It's like a company, governmental related. Yeah, considering the current development in technology, and regardless of what is really happening now, you can see that sharing economy is becoming a powerful household. It is not only in the car industry, it is also in the housing industry. You can name quite a few, but we're not going to go into housing. We're going to talk about cars. Yes. Sharing itself is not a new concept. Sharing has been there even from my grandfather's time. Yeah, because when you say trade by barter, it's sharing. I give you fish, you give me yam, or you give me biscuit. It's like that. That is sharing itself. Yeah, car sharing, it promotes perception. The perception of influencing consumers. And by influencing consumers, you get that attitude of being sustainable. And sustainability itself has different and multiple definitions. This definition is always from each and every company. They have their own model of defining sustainability. Yeah, like you can see, when you say attitude is inferred from our behavior itself. You can see Kyle in 1984 defined attitude as what is inferred from our behavior. Now, for trying to bring everything down to earth, our discovery led us to this particular quote: "Development through innovation is the key to influence consumer attitude for a sustainable future." That is something maybe students will be quoting in the next 10 years. Thank you very much.
Okay, we continue with cars. Yes. In another nationality.
How do you do that? Yes. PowerPoint. Down on the right. On the right. Yes.
Yeah. No, right.
Right.
Yeah, it looks like. I'm not pretty familiar with this Apple thing. Yeah. So, welcome welcome everybody. I hope you are enjoying yourselves so far. I will be talking to you about sustainable consumer behavior, but actually from an opposite perspective. That means that this thesis investigated unsustainable consumer behavior in order to figure elements of how to reverse such behavior into more sustainable, to be more sustainable. Now, when we talk about consumer behavior, there are tons of, in literature, there are tons of factors that influence consumer behavior. Social influence was found the most interesting in this study because as humans, we are pretty much influenced by society and our consumer behavior as a result. From social influence, 3 societal factors were chosen, namely informational, social. First of all, those were chosen because they were not previously researched in a similar context. Information, social influence, that is information we receive from others, shared experience, and like how it influences our consumer behavior. Shared experience is experiences we share with others. And status consumption in matter of group membership, it's like purchasing a product in order to belong to a certain group. Self-distinction is purchasing a product in order to distinguish oneself from others. And financial success is purchasing a product in order to express wealth. So, the research question adopted is how do societal factors influence consumer behavior to perform a purchase of unsustainable, high-involvement products, and combustion engine cars were taken as an example. Why high-involvement products? Because those are supposed to be the ones that consumers make the most efforts or invest the most resources in order to buy them or to purchase them. When I say resources are money or information search or efforts or whatever. And on the other hand, and more importantly, because of the harm combustion engine cause to the environment. We came to the model of consumer behavior adopted in this research. It was based on 2 recent studies. One is Hamra et al. And Stern, 2000. Those 2 mainly because they are recent studies that are investigating sustainable consumer behavior. We have what is called causal variables. Those are the determinants of behavior. Attitudes are beliefs or commitments. Contextual forces are by purchasing certain products in certain contexts. Personal capabilities are how much a consumer is able to invest in matter of resources to purchase a product. And emotions, affection, like how much one like to purchase a product. Investigation went from the social factors that influence, societal factors that influence on the 4 causal variables, and as a result on behavior on purchasing an unsustainable high involvement product. How this was done? Mixed method approach that combined both quantitative and qualitative data in matter of survey, expert interview, and observation. Then the findings. Those are the screws of consumer behavior found in this research. For example, information and social influence was found influential on all the causal variables. So in order to reverse consumer behavior towards a more sustainable alternative, strategy setters or those who are interested in doing so should focus on information that spreads in the society. It's very important to be positive about the sustainable alternative. While on the other hand, group membership, for example, was proven uninfluential on all of them. Meanwhile, self-distinction was proven influential on consumer behavior because it's influential on 3 of the causal variables, and emotions requires further research. This leads to the following argument. Like, if we are designing a sustainable product or a strategy to reverse consumer behavior, so this should be concentrated on self-distinction rather than on group membership, as it revealed by this study, because the sustainable alternative should communicate to the owner that if you purchase this product, that would make you unique and special. It contains special features, and rather than it would make an owner to belong to the group of one who care, or to make them to look like everybody else. On the other hand, financial success also was found influential. That means to set such a strategy, the sustainable alternative should be labeled as expensive, that expresses the wealth of the owner, rather than being of a cheap manner. Furthermore, I will start from the situational forces. One more causal variable can be added to the model in general that was discovered by observation. That the situation where the behavior is performed is very important in matter of influencing consumer behavior. 2 more contextual forces were discovered also to be important, to be added to not considered before. All of this was not considered before, which are family background and workplace environment. And Hedo.
Okay. Welcome up.
Hello everyone, my name is Yun Li, and my partner is Dr. Witt, and our thesis name is Misleading Environmental Claims and its Impact on Consumer Behavior, Purchasing Intention. Because nowadays the environmental claims are very popular as consumers care more about the environment, so we want to discover how these misleading environmental claims in the advertisement, how they influence the consumer purchasing behavior intention. And our purpose is to see how consumers really react to these environmental claims in the advertisement and how they will change their purchasing intention. And then these 3 research questions are used to guide our thesis. They are how misleading environmental claims influence consumer attitude, and how consumers perceive this descriptive environmental claims, and how they react to it. In order to carry this research, we used a product. It is the washing detergent. The reason we use it because the washing cleaners or washing detergent are the most green claims which will use the misleading green claims in advertisement, and there is many green claims in it, and it is the manipulated one. And another is the neutral one. It is the same product, while we deliver them into the two groups. One is the experimental group, another is the control group. Experimental group and the control group, they do not know each other's advertisement, and they will be measured by the same questions in the questionnaire. For the intervention in the experimental group, there are the green claims in the advertisement, and to see their purchasing intention, how they will react to it by their purchasing intention. So the theory we use is the TDB theory, the theory of planned behavior, which is about attitude towards behavior, subjective norms, and the perceived behavioral control. Because some people, when they have the initial planned purchase intention, will be influenced by the outsider factors.
Okay. Briefly, if you didn't get what she was just explaining, in order to carry out this research, we decided we will conduct it experimentally. We will use experimental. And a quasi-experimental design was just used. So in order to see consumers' reaction, we made 2 ads. The first ad, you have just seen the ads. The first one, we supplied it with the environmental informations, like good for nature, good for planet, good for you. While the other one, neutral, it was neutral. We didn't supply any environmental information. It's just the products is there. And that product we used is a detergent. It's a Unilever product. It's a detergent from South Africa, Skip detergent. And it's not known here in Sweden. So we were just testing to see how consumers are they going to react. We formulated 4 hypotheses from the TPB theory. It's the theory of planned behavior. From the theory, our first hypothesis was like this. Misleading advertisement will influence consumer positively. Since we have 2 ads, we projected that that one that has been manipulated, that has been supplied with environmental information, people will react more on that compared to the neutral one. When looking on our findings, that was not the case. Consumer responded equally. On the second, we projected that consumer will show high intention to buy in the treated ad, that one with the environmental information, compared to the neutral one. And that was the case. Consumer highly reacted on the one that has environmental information. On the side, from the previous literature, it was just said that environmentally involved consumers, those consumers who have the environmental initiatives to protect the planet, and those who work with the environmental issues are likely not to judge, not to evaluate whenever they come across with green products. So whenever a product is there, it's green, it's good for planet, then they respond promptly and buy the product. So we tested this because we have the business students here. most of them, they are very much familiar with sustainability, and they are much involved on the environmental issues. So we expected that they could react because we were just using the same questionnaire. We have two ads, but we have same questions. And we put environmental questions on both ads. So we expected, because they are very much involved in the environmental issues, they will act equally. And that was the case. They reacted equally on the two ads, despite of one having environmental information, the other not having the environmental information. And the last one, we were just testing, because we manipulated the ads and supplied with the environmental information, while in the real sense, the product has no any environmental attributes. And people are not familiar with the product. So we were just testing whether they will perceive the product as deceptive or not. We were just checking, are they going to discover that is this a fake product, or this is a genuine, in terms of information, we have just supplied the environmental information. And the result was that they were not able to identify. So from that point of view, you can just see the summary. Our first hypothesis was just rejected. They showed equally. We expected that attitude they will react more, but it was not the case. The second one is accepted, the third accepted, and the first one accepted. On the summary, results, and conclusion, first, these are the things to take home in this study. First, we have just learned that consumers are not actually able to differentiate between the fake claims and the genuine one. We are normally going to the supermarkets, we are normally buying things everywhere. Some environmental information are within the product, we are not able to evaluate. So you can just see from this study, people showed that they will buy this product, skip littering, but they don't know the product. And we just manipulated it. We put it in environmental information, but they responded to that environmental information we just supplied. Also, we have just learned that deception or misleading or greenwashing at the end of the day pays. It tends to make people react more to that product. And lastly, consumer skepticism about this is genuine or this is not, or this normally results to negative attitude. Those are three important things from this study. The last one, I will end with the recommendations. Since consumers are not able to identify or to recognize this is a fake environmental information and this is genuine one, then we thought that there is a need of more education and awareness on understanding the terms as well as the environmental symbols that are being used. Also, the responsible institution like Swedish Consumer Protection Agency should work closely with consumers to provide that education so that they will be able to differentiate and to evaluate whenever they come across with the claims within products. Another recommendation is about the relevant authorities too. We based much on the relevant authorities. They should adopt a stricter environmental regulation to companies, because we have been seeing most of the private companies, they are not much motivated to stop misleading consumer, because there is no strict regulations and laws that bind them. To marketers, we would like to advise them that they should employ a proper and a clear definition of claims that they normally use on their product. And they should think of the consumer that is going to use the product. If these claims that I'm just attaching to the product as zero emission or biodegradable, is it understood? If the consumer will be able to understand this. When I say this product or this car is zero emission, as a consumer who buys the car, is he aware that what that zero emission means? Yes, and this goes together with the ambiguous terms. Thank you.
The other presenters can come up here as well. Yes, welcome back. Come closer here, where the camera is. Because you have to come closer.
Okay, my question is to the team talking about car sharing in China. How do you see the whole concept of car sharing right now and sustainability, given that there's also this new concept of driverless cars and Uber? How does that fit into this, based on your study and based on your observations
so far? Like Uber and Didi Chuxing, actually they have a lot of part of business concept are similar. However, because we also use the theory of CCT, consumer culture theory, and based on the Chinese market, they're actually based on the our result from employees. There's something different. For example, in China, we know it develops so fast, but there is a gap between people basic need and what they really want from the business service. So, for example, it's about credibility, about trust issues. They want a good service with reasonable price, is fundamentally utilization. But if your price and service are good, however, I can't trust the driver. I don't know where the car comes from, and there are a lot of concerns about the business itself. However, in America, about Uber, because we also see some report, they are more focused on how to make people connected, because it's a so technical city. Los Angeles. No.
If I can
San Francisco.
Yeah, if I can come in here now. This concept is a new concept in China, because the company itself actually started 5 years ago, that is 2012, and it has been growing enormously. Now, the concept itself, if you can look into it, or if you really manage to read the paper, you see it's a sort of relationship creation, because it's a synergy, it's working together. It does not, Didi does not work alone. Didi work with other organizations. Like when you see about the platform apps, it is connected to other organizations. Like you see WeChat, you see Apple, iPay, even for payment and everything. So it is a strong network, and that is why it is strong, because if you have a platform where it is just focused on just one issue, it's not about really emission or pollution. It creates a sort of a web that is trying to connect the world. Now, the second step is Denmark. 3 days ago, it was initiated. They are coming to Denmark, where you can even use your telephone to order taxi and pay for it without your bank card. So
we think one of the top advantage of Didi Chuxing is that their business concept actually back to the beginning of what consumers really need and based on the social issue that everybody facing every day. So, like our problem want to solve is also how to make consumers use more their service. And when they use more, there is also data if you want to use one sharing car, and it can reduce around 9 to 13 cars running on the streets. So that's the step for you, for the city to be more sustainable and more eco-friendly, and also for the fuel consumption and also to air pollution and to the city ecosystem. So there is a chain process, but basically Didi focused on the beginning, how to make people use more. Yes.
Thank you. Still on the cars, I like the concept and also your claim that sharing was very old. The continent you and I share is also very good in violence. So there's a fear. There's a need for security. So I would just be curious about your speculation whether the concept can work in a context where this invites violence, and we've seen it. And secondly, where sharing is done by another sector of the taxis that would take 10 or 15 people. So we see violent reaction from one sector when this new technology or this new social solution steals or looks like it would steal their profit. Thanks.
Yeah, if I would come into your question, initially when Didi started, it was like that, the security issue, because the traditional taxis, sometimes you see the taxi drivers fighting with passengers because they cannot give a return change. Now in Didi, you only can use your telephone to pay. You don't really need the physical money. So that is really reducing that or bringing that security into play. Now, the traditional taxis or the traditional mode of transportation like the train, tram, Didi is connected with them because they have hubs. And that is why it is very secure, because you can tell exactly when is the next public transport bus going. You can make that connection. So you don't really have that fear of maybe waiting too long in the street for somebody to come and attack you. So security issues is there. Even the passengers, they talk about it. And we see it as developing because it has just started. It still has to grow.
And also one feature is that because Didi Chuxing has a collaboration with local government, so that they can actually get more advantage from the political side. And for example, they keep updating the regulations and policies. Like before, in the beginning, all kinds of cars, you use the app and then you can use the service. You register as a driver and that's it. So people can't kind of track your personal information or how your credibility rating, etc. But now for the cars, you have to above 120,000 RMB, which is around 140,000 SEK. So there is a high level of the car itself, so the quality and also security can be ensured somehow. And also for the drivers, now there is like two ways, not about the drivers itself, but also for the passengers. They can check the information for each other. So that's the second way. And the third is like all the data are tracked by the GPS, and all the cars have to set it. So not about the drivers, about the passengers, they can check where the car is or where I'm is from the cell phone, but also for the platform of Didi. So everything is connected. So, but also, they use this big data so they can predict more accurately for passenger to save time, to be more convenient, etc. And in the beginning, the security issue, is a super big problem, because besides Didi's headquarters in Beijing, actually their service covered most of the big cities in China, and the population is over millions. However, people can just find the information on cell phone. There is no office they can complain, and there is no place they can actually reach real people from Didi company. So now they have like a third agency in each city, and they have license. So actually drivers can come to this agency, and this agency connected to Didi. So everybody can see, yes, there is a structure that's physical, and people can feel like more reliable on this kind of service based on sharing economy. Yeah, so that's their improvement, and they can better, I believe.
Thanks. I would have a method question to say, because you said you used mixed methods and interviews people as well. How did you find these people, and how, because you were talking to people who were about to buy a car, right? Did you went to car sellers and talk to the people there, or how did you?
Consumers were investigated by sending in a survey and face-to-face contact, while expert interview was conducted as a semi-structured interview, and observation of the whole process was taking place through the whole data collection.
May I say, because I think you're missing out something that's very interesting that you did, that you haven't really told us. You got access to be at BMW, their sales center in Germany, where they bring customers that are about to buy a car. So they're really there to make, a sensible kind of decision. They're high-seeking information seekers. And of course, what happens at this place is very important, it's very influential for what consumers do and the kind of steps that they take. And here you had the possibility to be there and talk to the experts, see the actual space.
Yeah, that revealed a very interesting finding, actually, which is I talked about very shortly at the last slide, which is the situational forces. Like I tried to name it as other causal variables. So that was very interesting. That simply talking, that was directing consumers toward the biggest and fanciest and most sportive and most expensive and all of this of cars. Yeah, that's why I think it's very important also to have a look at the place, or not a place, environment where the decision or the performance is, the behavior is performed. Yeah.
So it's not that strange.
No.
Coming there, being shown all these important big cars that were not the environmentally friendly, what kind of decision did they make? Mm-hmm. I would like to ask you, so what would we do then? If there were, let's say, one thing in order for consumers to resist fake claims?
I think the most important thing is education and awareness, as we pointed out. If people are aware and they are educated on the claims, environmental claims that are being used, that it will be easy. Also, the issue of certification is also adding something into it. But what I see is wrong. The self-declared labeling, where a manufacturer its product and then labeled it without this third-party certification. So that is where we get so many fake.
And also another is some consumers, they have high environmental involvement, but although they have high environmental involvement, but compared with the products without the misleading green claims, they will also trend to purchase or believe the one with the misleading green claims in the advertisements product. And
thank you for that. Thanks to all three of you, all three groups. Well
You're amazing.
Yes. On.
And you're here in the camera and
Yes.
talking loud.
She's going to speak first.
All the good things, they have to come to an end. I mean, so mixed feelings with all this. But we have 2 more presentations to enjoy, and I think we get started immediately.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. We are in the last session, and hope daddies and mommies are still interested in learning some new things. Yeah, before we start, let's watch a short video.
You're amazing. Every day you juggle a million things and still get it all done. Well, maybe not everything. Exercise is always the first thing to drop. And that's when unhealthy stress and anxiety follows you until one day it strikes.
Okay, we know the importance of exercise, and we know, the connection between exercise and health, but how to encourage more self-regulated exercise during our daily life, and how to create a healthy and sustainable lifestyle. Let's see our research. Millennial fitness apps usage in Shanghai. Next. And currently in China, metropolises like Shanghai and Beijing are heavily suffering from the urbanization expand, the mobility issues, and the overusage of land. And it has already caused a highly congested urban environment, which is detrimental to the local residents' life quality. Issues including the increasing the heavy air pollution due to the carbon emissions from cars, and decreasing public spaces for the physical activities, and increasing traffic jam due to the highly reliant on the private vehicles. Yeah.
So there are a large variety of different strategies to combat this issue, like we just heard about this car sharing. However, our approach is slightly different. We are looking at a fitness application in people's mobile phones that can motivate, instead of using car, exercise, for example, walking. To get more concrete example of this, if a normal Shanghaiese goes to work by walking to a subway station, and from another subway station walks then to work instead of taking a private car, that's already 1 car less in the street, and we can consider that as a win. And as we mentioned earlier, we are concentrating on Shanghai region. It's an interesting region since it's ranked as the most developed and influential city in China. However, it's ranked 20th in terms of people awareness of sustainability, and 159 in the air quality assessment. So these contradictions between these rankings are one of the reasons why we expected extremely interesting data from this region. So we came to our research scope. So what influences millennials' behavior intention to subscribe to fitness applications? And another one, what influences millennials' consistent usage of fitness applications in Shanghai? Now, the word millennials are a generation born between 80s and 2000. And they are an interesting age group in Shanghai, especially because that's the largest age group that is in the city, and therefore we argue as one of the biggest contributors to this car usage in the city.
And a survey was created based on the behavior intention and motivational theories, targeting at millennials in Shanghai, as we mentioned before. And the data collection process was conducted through 2 channels, offline and online. This offers an opportunity for us to examine the similarities and differences between 2 sets of data in order to reduce the residence bias. And totally, we got 408 responses. Most of the responses are collected from online and 107 collected from offline. And our interesting discovery we found is that half of the respondents consist of 2 main categories, offline office workers and students. This seems to indicate that these 2 office workers, students are the 2 main categories of millennials in Shanghai. And over 2/3 of the respondents have already subscribed to fitness apps before. However, many of them are inconsistent with the usage.
In case you were wondering what are offline users, so she actually went to Shanghai to give these surveys away. So she has actually met some of our respondents herself. However, one of our keys that we found what influences the most in millennials' intention to subscribe to fitness applications was, first and foremost, the biggest one was the possible users' aspiration to become more sustainable. In our research, we didn't define sustainability, like we didn't ground it into a specific sentence, but we left it as the user to interpret what sustainability for themselves. And the second one is that how much benefits do they expect to gain? So if they have an application, if they expect high benefits, they are more likely to subscribe to this. And the third one is, do they expect to enjoy using the application? The enjoyment itself. Does it give them enjoyment? And the fourth one that we found is the social influence. For example, do your parents or peers or friends, how do they see fitness applications? How users' social surrounding approves or disapproves the use of fitness application?
And what we found about the long-term usage is that self-regulation and the sustainable awareness are the 2 main significant factors affecting the long-term usage of fitness apps for millennials in Shanghai. But one interesting point is that the factor of social media shows a totally different result in both in 2 samples. It is important for online groups, but not important for the offline groups. And here are 4 recommendations based on the findings we got. First one is improving the feature of personality. Nowadays, we all talk about personalized products, unique products, and niche products. And it is very important for the users of fitness apps to decide what do they want. So such as like user interface can be modified and changed based on the user's dynamic needs all the time. And second one is improving a specialized self-tracking system. Currently, a lot of fitness apps, they focus on the using of the gamification factors and social media to attract more users. Why ignore the basic function of a fitness app, which is to monitor users' health and physical activities accurately and professionally? The third one is inserting more sustainable elements. More relevant charity activities could be sponsored by the fitness apps corporations and connect the activities with their fitness apps in order to increase users' active participation. And the final one is the social factors. Those social networks have been implemented successfully into numerous aspects in our daily life. But many previous findings, as well as our own findings, shows a contradicting and complicated attitude towards the use of social network. So for the developers of fitness app, we suggest that they should carefully consider and prioritize their target audience and offer them a participating role and they can decide how do they want to use fitness apps, the social media during the fitness app usage.
So to conclude, our findings are best used for fitness app marketers and developers who can then use this data to create more fitness app users and ultimately increase the more sustainable lifestyle of overall population in Shanghai, especially in the millennial generation. And we thank you very much for your attention.
Hello, everyone. I hope everyone still have the energy. So thank you, Timmy and Lynn, for amazing presentation. So this is Els.
And this is Kang, and together we explored the relationship between price and sustainability within the clothing industry. And this is something where we all can relate to since we wear clothes during our normal lives. Yes, and there has been many issues reported in the clothing industry when it comes to sustainability. But as we can see in this headers here from magazines and newspapers, it are mainly the cheaper fashion brands that are scrutinized by the media. And we could also feel this amongst our classmates, that when we bought something at H&M, that we felt kind of bad about it, while when we buy more expensive clothes, that we kind of think that it is better somehow. So therefore, we thought, what about the expensive clothes? Are they actually more sustainable, or do they just stay under the radar, the expensive brands? Yes, and the agenda for our presentation, first we will tell the research objective, and then the methodology we use to approach this problem, and in the end we will tell you to which research this led.
Okay, for the research objective, it's very simple. We want to see how far the sustainability influence the price within the garment industry. So
But we are the sustainable management class, and we saw that there were many different kind of topics for the presentations, which means that sustainability is a very broad term, and we had to narrow it down. And we decided to do this by looking at where the piece of clothing is produced. And we did this for the following two reasons. First of all, most of the sustainability-related issues happen during the manufacturing process of clothing. And here you can think about working conditions or the uses of natural resources. And then secondly, if a company operates in a certain country, it is very unlikely that this company makes more sustainability efforts than is required by law in the country. So, for example, a company is active in Sweden, but also in India, for example. It is very unlikely that they have the same standards in India as they have in Sweden when it comes to environmental practices, just for the reason that laws in Sweden are way stricter.
So our study is quantitative, so we need to have a lot of data. So our data collection method is quite unconventional. So we decided to mystery shop T-shirts. So we didn't actually buy those T-shirts, we just actually checked for information. So first we check how much the consumer had to pay to get the T-shirt. And the second piece of information is where they were made. So in total we collected 173 T-shirts, and you have to guess how many were made in Sweden. No. Exactly. So as I said, it's quantitative. So you can see two pieces of information. First, the price is in numbers. And the second one is the country. It's not in numbers, so we need to quantify it in order to do statistic analysis. So we chose the Sustainable Society Index to quantify it. So the index has the score for almost every country in the world based on the human well-being, environmental well-being, and economic well-being. For example, China can be quantified into three numbers. The maximum point is 10, the minimum point is 0, the higher is the better, more sustainable. So we have totally 173 set of data. So the result we use SPSS and statistical analysis for mumbo jumbo. The results indicate that social sustainability does influence the price of t-shirt, and in exact number is 19.8% of the variety of differences of prices. And that means that the higher the price of the t-shirt is likely to make in better social circumstances. However, we conduct further tests. We can see that there is not much difference between high price segment and luxury segment. That means that if you buy something for 1,000 Swedish crown and another one for 7,000 Swedish crown, it's likely to have the same level of social sustainability.
Yeah. And just to give you more of a picture what this could mean in the social, in the human well-being of the social, of the Sustainability Society Index, there is, for example, involves poor governance and income distribution and human rights protection. So if a company operates in a country that scores low on the Sustainable Society Index, then it is likely that they can take kind of advantage of paying lower wages and also of demanding long working weeks from the people working in their factories, or, for example, providing bad circumstances for those workers.
For the two other sustainability, the results indicate that they influence very, very little. As you can see, environmental well-being only influence 0.1 of the price of sustainability. That means that no matter how expensive your clothes is, it doesn't have much better environmental well-being.
Yes, so if the clothing is more expensive, it does not mean that it's produced in a more environmental friendly country. Yeah. But we do argue, though, that price and environment are connected somehow. And this is for the reason that cheap prices of clothing leads to over-consuming of us as consumers. I think we all sometimes buy something just because it's cheap and not because we want it so badly. And all those clothes still, for producing these clothes, a lot of natural resources are actually used. So it's not that cheap for the planet as it is for us as consumers to buy it. And eventually many of those clothes will end up in landfills, as we can see here. Yes, so before we buy clothes, we should question ourselves. Do we actually want and need this, or do we just buy it because it's cheap? And also, even though the social sustainability has an influence on the pricing of clothes, this does still not mean that more expensive clothes are automatically environmentally friendly. So we can also not justify our shopping behavior by that if we seek to buy sustainable items.
Based on price.
Based on price. So thank you.
You were the last group?
Yes.
And I think everyone deserves great applause, right? So now it's time for questions for those two groups. Who wants to start?
Bellus.
Hi, thank you. I got a question for the last group. I was thinking that you said in your conclusions that you could see that social sustainability somehow influenced the price. But can you extend a bit more on, like, did you see the higher the price, the more social sustainable the brand was, or like how did you, as it was a quantitative study, how did you build your conclusions on that?
About data. So, if you can see, there's the price and the score over there that you have to seem to compare. For example, one is almost the same price, but also you see the human well-being. For China, it's lower than Italy. Therefore, with bigger data, we show a trend like go up. The higher price and the social sustainability, it go up. There is a positive correlation. So that means higher price means those countries have the higher score.
But only to 19%.
Yeah, 19.2. So there are other factors to influence the differences in price. Because in our literature review, it said that a lot of brands are being scrutinized for their sweatshop behavior. So I think there's a shift in production. Like from our data set, there's a lot of clothing were made in Turkey, in Portugal, and they are in Europe. So they are a bit better in sustainability than clothing made in China or in Bangladesh. So therefore there's a positive correlation.
But we didn't, like, this is what we did in the scope in our research. Just look at the correlations from this data that we collected, and we not looked into what kind, from which factory it exactly comes, or what kind of production methods they use.
So as I understand it, get me if I'm wrong, but how do you build your claims? Like, what sources or what evidence do you have for them being actually more sustainable?
Well, you mean the country?
No, yeah, on the price and the correlation.
Because we, as statistics, we cannot go deep into, so we have to collect a lot of data in order to generalize a lot. So we have clothing from a lot from China, a lot from Italy, like everywhere. So we can generalize that because maybe there's some factory that's sustainable in those countries, but we have enough data in order to generalize in those countries.
How the data was collected from the company's websites or from the brand?
We went to the shop in Stockholm. We just checked, walking around in the store, check the price, where it was made, write down.
But what I think is missing maybe is that they used instead the index.
Yes.
That is based on production country. So there are indexes existing. So they check the production country and check the index of that country and check the price.
Okay, they built
Oh, the index is not from ours. It's from from NGO, and they collect data from UN, from all kind of other NGO that they have their own index, and they condense it into 3 numbers, which corresponding to the 3 bottom lines. So you can see those 3. It's very on the surface of a country. They cannot go deep into. It's very complicated issue. So they make it into that based on a lot of indexes. So it's kind of a reductionist view.
Okay, yeah. Then I get it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What's next? Questions? Somebody? No?
Yeah, I can just ask.
No, you have to do it.
Okay. Yeah, okay, sorry. Yeah, okay, hello. Thanks for the nice presentations. I had a question for the first group. You said that you didn't define sustainability, and yet you said it was one of the keys for people starting to use this app.
So in our questionnaire, because people define, we don't have time to educate everyone in our survey what is sustainability. So in our questionnaire, we just left it how people perceive what is sustainability and how they are trying to achieve their perceived sustainability goal. Therefore, it was rather inconvenient to ground everything into one simple definition.
So for the second group, what is your recommendation in terms of like if I want to save money and if I still want to get the brand that provide like a sustainability on their clothing, what should I do?
Well, be critical.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well,
what basically is the results of our research. So what we could say is, okay, if you want to save money, it's still kind of better to buy something that lasts longer. And then if you want to buy something maybe that you really like, but is more expensive, then look, if you want it to be sustainable as well, then do some research about the company and how they produce and so on.
Thank you.
I'm personally very interested in this social sustainability aspect, but I just read a Twitter last day from Sasha Beslik, who is head of sustainable finance at Nordea, which is a large bank here in Sweden. And they had made calculations that showed, and they are totally transparent with the numbers, and I can send it to you later if you're interested in looking at it. But he found that, like on average, a Bangladesh worker, factory worker, earns about $87 a month. And their calculation shows that if H&M would double the price for the garment worker, it would, by like indexes, mean that the Bangladesh worker would not earn like a minimum wage, but instead a living wage, which can be argued as more socially sustainable. And that would, in the end, for the consumer, mean a rise in final price by from 30 to 50 cents due to the high volumes and the margins that H&M respond to. So what is your comment about this? Because it's like you sometimes you argue for, and I totally agree with you on the overconsumption aspect, because H&M generates a lot of unnecessary consumption. But on the other hand, the margins and the large volumes also enables these kind of equations to perhaps function.
This is kind of hard to answer now since we not really researched into that. Yeah, I don't know.
I think if you stimulate production, and I don't know if H&M, according from Bladder research, H&M score very high in circular economy. So maybe if they do it the right way and they can increase the score for human well-being and environmental well-being at the same time, I don't see why not. But if they don't, they just do it for the sake of more consumption. And I don't think that's good.
And what I can comment on, though, even though it will be only 30 or 40 cents more expensive, from our data collection, we actually found out that many brands sell T-shirts, similar products, for exactly the same price. So I think it's only 30, 40 cents, which seems nothing, but it is for companies, at least what I think based on that, very high to increase even the prices slightly, because it's such a competitive industry. Yeah.
Okay, Jenny says that we have to wrap this up.
Yes, we have to, because we are continuing, aren't we? Yes.
Yes, but I just wanted to mention before you all leave that this recording will be available on our website, Sweatest. It's the Center of Education for Sustainable Development, so you can follow that and then you can see the recording, if you want to see, the presentations again or some specific.
Or send them to friends.
Or send them to friends and share, of course. And yes, just.
Before you leave, guys, we have to just organize ourselves for the next step. Everyone, you can run. They are running before us to prepare for the next step, which is drinks and further on the dinner. And we would like to do two things. We would like to go there together, but also to take a group photo on their way. So we meet in Almedalen to take this group photo, which is also on the way. For those of you...
The group photo will probably be in the ruin instead. So they can be,
Okay, great. Okay, so then we see each other outside, I think, outside of the entrance. That's easier. And then we walk together. And I think it would be good for people to maybe visit ladies and so on before. So we can take, what about if we see each other at 1:45?
In the room?
No, here in the entrance. Yeah, so you can just, take it easy and do whatever you need. And we see each other and then we walk together. Okay? Thank you for coming.